Hey everybody, welcome back to another reasonable price prediction, the show where we try not to get everything wrong about your favorite altcoins. Today we are looking at FTM, and we're just going to take a look at a few general macro trends that FTM has followed leading up to the last halving and now leading up to the current halving. Now, if you have a keen eye, you might have noticed that this white line here is playing out in a sort of W shape. We see that it goes from one extreme high to one extreme low, and it returns to this high, moves back to a lower low, interestingly, and then back to this similar level of a high. And we'll get into this blue line later. This is actually a bit of a contradiction to my current suggestion, but I always like to throw one of them in, just to show that there's always a case for something else to happen. And if you've got an even keener of an eye, you'll notice that we're also playing out in a somewhat similar W pattern, leading up to our current halving. And again, this was during, we went from 4 to 5, this was during the halving, and we went from 4 to 5 here during the halving. So in terms of how it's playing out time-wise, it is pretty symmetrical. And if we actually try line up these dates, we can see that 1 to 2 took place from 2018 to 2019, basically, and this was a very quick move. However, here, this was 2022, and this took place over, give or take, 11 months. So a way longer stretch of time here, but we do basically get the same move, and we get basically the same move in a very similar amount of time. We just spend more time at these lows and eventually come in to put a lower low. But 1 to 2, we close up to at 2019, and we close up to here just before 2023. So we can see that we are about 4 years out from each other, which fits quite nicely with the 4-year cycle that we've often spoke about. And then what do we see? We see our sort of mini Bullrun rally, as people like to call it, as I've called it before on the show, where in between the Bullrun years, we usually have some sort of a relief rally. Last cycle, we had it in 2019. Like we see here, our relief rally, Fantom returns back to its sort of all-time highs and even puts in an even higher high, and this is our 3. And this finishes sort of mid-2019, May time. And if we take a look here where this finishes, it also finishes mid-2023, around April, May time. So again, very similar dates in terms of the moves that Fantom is seeing on its US dollar pair. And this was when Fantom was trading at $2 now, by the way. We're currently trading at 35 cents, and this 0.3 here had Fantom at 55 cents. We then see a move down, again, a long move, longer last time than what we've currently seen. We finished and came down to 4 early 2020. And if we take a look here where we came down to 4, it was late 2023. So lagging a little bit, but that's fine. Again, these things don't have to play out. And we can see here that we put in this low directly before the halving, and then 4 to 5, we climbed all the way up through the halving and then basically went into our bull run. And we could see a similar thing could potentially play out here because we put in our 4 now, and even though we've still got way longer to go in terms of where we need to go to the halving, from last time we were right there, we were on the doorstep of the halving when we put in our low, we are now coming up to that time and we haven't really seen too much of a move. So we could potentially have our pull up, and we can see we've actually returned to these 3 levels. So that would be a bullish case for FTM. However, the bearish case, which, you know, let's be real, there's definitely a chance that Fantom could play out this way because realistically, Fantom hasn't really done well this last cycle. Realistically, I mean, it had terrible pull downs from its all-time high. Again, like a 95%. It's pretty average, but still pretty terrible. No one wants to lose 95% of their money. And then in terms of rallies, it has gone up. I mean, if you go from low to high, it did a 300% move, which is good on any asset. But compared to what we've seen in the crypto space in general, a 3x isn't great. And we can see it didn't even really manage to pull that. It couldn't break above its previous all-time highs. So I'm personally a little bearish on Fantom. And one thing that does worry me is that we still haven't managed to break above this zone. And I think what will happen over the next few weeks in the crypto space is very up in the air. There's a big narrative of a bullish sentiment because we're coming up to the halving. Historically, after the halving, cryptos often take off and do very well. But there's also a lot of other indicators, a lot of real indicators that are very important, and we've spoken about them on the channel, that suggest the crypto space could have a very serious pullback. And with Fantom not being a crypto that's outperformed in any way whatsoever, if a crypto is going to pull back, or if there is going to be some bad action in the space, then I think Fantom will definitely feel it. Now, we are above the bull market support band. That's important to know. We are riding it right now, but we are still above. We haven't closed below. We haven't opened below, which is important. But another thing that worries me, if we take a look at when Fantom first put in this high, and again, this is the launch price, so you can't really take too much from this. You could argue that we don't count this move, initial move at all, looking at this scenario. So if we move from 3 to the halving, not the halving, excuse me, the next peak, we can see that it was about 67 weeks. And if we go 67 weeks from the current peak, that would put us at around the halving time. So again, we can see these peaks are more or less spot on with each other in terms of time frame. Now, the next time that Fantom came close to these levels, it broke above them. And we can see we had a similar move following the bull market support band where Fantom was sort of up in a strong move and was bouncing off its bull market support band. Here, we've seen a bit of a move, but realistically nothing special, and we're already back at the bull market support band. We can see when Fantom tested the bull market support band last time, during a similar time frame, when we had a similar move, it broke down below. And even when it broke down below, it went a drop of 50% below the low. So if we take Fantom now and go 50%, that puts us slap bang to our lows. So now there's a real case that if Fantom drops below this bull market support band and it plays out how it did last time, which is possible because they're similar time frames with similar things having led up to them, I mean literally almost word for word in a way. The only difference this time being that Fantom has shown a lot more weakness. It hasn't been able to break above here when it historically did before, and its upward move has been meager. It hasn't been very strong when the rest of the crypto space has been doing amazing rallies. And now if we do break below this bull market support band, like we've seen Fantom do before during this time, if it follows a similar move, we're back to these lows. And those are lows of 18 cents for Fantom. Serious drops from the current price, which is 35 cents. Now, if this did happen, I would say this would be the cycle low for Fantom. I don't think it would go lower here again. And I think once the bull market started off, Fantom would be fine and it will probably do well. And a lot of people could be hoping for these price drops because they've missed these prices. They've seen the crypto space rally 2.5x or Fantom rally 2.5x, and they want another chance in. And historically, altcoins do perform much worse compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum as time goes on, and they have their 10 minutes of fame during the bull run and then they go back. So you do have a lot more opportunities to pick up altcoins at good prices. However, I really think time is running out. Potentially we might not come down to these levels. We might dip to a previous resistance or support. We could see 25 cents. I don't think that's off the table. It kind of depends where the rest of the crypto space goes. Again, like we talked about, there's this bullish case and then there's the bearish case where we get rejected at the blue, we dip down below the bull market support band, return to our lows like we did previously. It's all kind of up in the air, but something for you to make an informed decision on. Swapping to Bitcoin or the Fantom Bitcoin pair, again, a lot going on. The newest addition to this would be this orange arrow line / indicator that shows 100 weeks or 700 days. And this basically goes from the inception of Fantom when we put in this first initial high, like we saw on the US dollar pair back in 2018, basically to start of 2019. And we then only retested that level on the Bitcoin pair more or less 2 years later of Q3 2020. Now, if we take a look at, again, sort of how Fantom has been playing out the last few times, we can see that as time's gone on from a similar point, again 2019, 4 years later we're at the beginning of 2023, similar time frames. We can see we also put in a high that we haven't come back to yet on the Fantom Bitcoin pair, and it was also like a local high. It was this sort of small bull run revival thing that we have spoken about a lot, where every 4 years we have a small bull run, every 4 years we have a big bull run, and they're spaced 2 years between each other. So 2021 big bull run, 2023 small bull run, and then potentially 2025 big bull run. Anyway, off topic, we see that through this time, Fantom trades down and puts in quite drastic lows. And we see that so far, Fantom has done that here as well. Traded down, put in quite drastic lows, spending the majority of its time below the bull market support band. Until when Fantom breaks above, it gets a good few weeks and we hit the top again here. We come back up to this level and we do get rejected, but we often see after the halving, altcoins have parabolic rallies, only to then basically lose all the value that they gained against Bitcoin, and then to gain it again, and way much more in the bull run year. We haven't seen quite the same thing play out. So from this high, we see Fantom has spent a lot of its time below the bull market support band, like we saw here. However, Fantom did break out above this bull market support band not too long ago, basically last year, end of last year, but it now has come back and retraced down below this bull market support band. And we spoke in the last video about most likely Fantom will trade down. It's been rejected from this top and we'll come back and revisit this low at the white, like we did leading up to the halving before. We rode this white line down, or we touched the bottom of it, before we went into the halving. I said we could see this happen with the white line, but most likely we'll probably hold a support at this sort of a level, this sort of general true value that Fantom has put in. Now that could be codswallop, and we might be much better off extending this line. Basically what it's amounting to is a descending wedge, which will most likely cause a strong move to the upside, which we've seen historically. Fantom has a strong move to the upside when it gets to a pinch during the halving. Now, I didn't really pinch here, but it's definitely pinching now. So there is going to be some strong volatility, and if you're a swing trader, this is what you're looking for. Now, I don't know many exchanges that let you do futures on FTM Bitcoin, but even if you're just using spot trade, like you're borrowing money independently and then putting that money into the spot trade for the Fantom Bitcoin pair, you could potentially make money. Again, it's high risk, high reward, like the whole of the crypto space. But one thing is for sure, we will probably see extreme volatility as this wedge slowly tightens on Fantom's price. And I wouldn't bet on this, I wouldn't go to the bank with it, but me personally, I would say to the upside, just because of the historical actions Fantom has done around this time and the current conformities that it's abiding within. I don't know though. You know, anything could happen. There could be a black swan, could cause Fantom to drop like a rock. It's very difficult to say. All we know though is that basically after the halving, historically, Fantom has traded up. And while it has been an extremely volatile range that it traded up in, it did trade up. And it did that for basically 8 months, 7 months, give or take. When was this? December, 9 months, excuse me. So a very long time, and it did so very well. So again, it could be something to keep in mind after the halving, maybe rotating your BTC into altcoins if you're looking for that more exposure to potentially higher gains. But again, more risk comes with that. There's a lot of altcoins that didn't do well at all last cycle. I think that about wraps up the video. I don't think there's anything else I want to say. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Consider signing up with FairDesk in the link in the description. Not only do you get a deposit bonus, but you also get reduced trading fees, so you can go buy some extra FTM with that deposit bonus and lose less when you buy it with those reduced trading fees. Go check them out. Really helps out the channel as well. We get a kickback on the trading volume, but only if you want, of course. Thanks very much, guys. Take care and peace.